So yesterday I was on Reddit and someone had put a post out about how did a car save your life? Tell the story. And lots of people were talking about, safety features and, how cars' safety features had helped them in a crash. And I had a story which I put on there, and lots of people were then messaging me saying, "Oh, you should make a video about this. I think people actually find it really interesting." So here we are, my story about how a Subaru Impreza WRX saved my life, but not in the way you might think. Before I start this video, you should be aware that it's going to touch on a few quite heavy subjects around mental health, depression, PTSD, alcoholism, and substance abuse. Just to be aware before we get into it, because I know that can be quite triggering for some people. If I go back 4 years, 2020, I was working in military cybersecurity around using artificial intelligence for, security analysis. That's basically all I can talk about with what I used to do, but I was not having a good time. I was getting really depressed about the work that I was doing and developing symptoms of what I would later find out to be PTSD. And at the time, I had a creative outlet, which was I used to be a cosplayer and costume maker, and I was, I'd say, pretty good at it. I, entered competitions all over the world. I won a lot of them. I made things for studios. I was good at it, and that was my kind of creative release. But day to day, I was not in a good place, and being very depressed and wanting to leave IT, I started to develop a bit of a drinking issue. Not a bit of a drinking issue, a drinking issue. Now, I'd say, struggled with alcohol my entire life. I grew up in a brewing town in the Midlands. So access to alcohol from a young age, kind of 16, was like rampant. Everybody drank quite heavily from that kind of age, and it was the mindset of they're better off in the pub than causing issues around the cul-de-sacs. And I started drinking quite heavily from a young age, and it's, I'd say, been a problem my entire life. It's ended relationships of mine. It's put me into financial hardship. It's always been a thing that I've struggled with, but throughout that, I always had the mindset of it's only hurting me. I'd wake up with a hangover. I go, well, that's my cross to bear. And the problem that I had was that I was a high functioning alcoholic. So it never really affected my job. I'd still get up and, go to work every day and be good at what I was doing. By the time I left IT, I was in a very senior IT role. I never let it affect my work, but it had always affected my relationships and my interpersonal relationships with people. And it's ended lots of friendships and relationships over the years. And I don't know, I always dismissed those things as, it's still only my problem. So around late 2020, I'd been in lockdown, like most of us had, from COVID for quite a while. And I was leaving the IT industry because I'd been doing it for 20 odd years and I'd had enough. And I'd actually got well enough known in the cosplay and costuming thing and doing 3D product design and 3D cosplay prop design that I decided I was going to leave IT and start my own business doing 3D prop modeling. So suddenly I've left IT and I've got all these new stresses of trying to jump from a high paid IT job into being an artist. And the extra stresses that came with that And, it feels like I'm making excuses, but I just put myself in this really bad position where I was secretly drinking every day as a coping mechanism. And then because I was drinking every day, I was trying to hide that from my partner at the time, which was stupid. And so I attempted to balance myself out chemically by developing quite a bad cocaine habit, which, not only cost me an absolute ton of money, it was such a waste, but, I was destroying myself. I'd, get up in the middle of the afternoon and then I'd be up awake until 4 o'clock in the morning. And it's just like, and I'm trying to start this new business and I've got so much stuff on my plate that I was just lost. I was a lost person. Kind of early 2021, my partner had enough and left me. There's only so many times you can wake up in your chair in front of a computer. Someone tolerate that, and I'll be honest, I'm amazed she tolerated it as long as she did. And she left, and kind of like I was left suddenly trying to run this business by myself that I planned as a 2-person operation, and left in a big house by myself. Just, I don't know, I got to a point, people talk about rock bottom. For me, that was it. That was me hitting my bottom. The reality is that probably came as a blessing in disguise, because I think if she hadn't, at that point, I don't know if I'd be here now, and that's the difficult truth of it. Now, I met her through the cosplay scene, and subsequently all of our friends were kind of like intertwined through that scene, and they all knew me. Everybody in that world knew me as this kind of like loud, probably arrogant, brash, heavy drinker. She always used to say that I had two sides. I had a Jekyll and a Hyde. I had Andy, who's this like just sweet, caring, loving guy, the person you want to be around. And then I had Valentine, and Valentine was the persona that I would put up online and at conventions, and that was the arrogant, loud, drunk person. And loads of people knew me only as Valentine. They'd never really got to know me outside of those other things. And I'd never found Andy Valentine, never found that midpoint between the two. So when we broke up, because our friends were also intertwined because of that world, I didn't fight for any of those friendships, and I nuked everybody in my life, basically. All my friends in my life. So then suddenly I'm put myself in this position where it's me, and the only thing I need to do at that point in time is stop drinking and stop taking drugs. So I made a phone call to a support group here in Bristol called Smart, and decided to, join their online support group because still COVID was still happening a lot. So I joined on these digital Zoom calls, and that was the start for me, of a journey towards being better. And, honestly, sitting in these silently to begin with, sitting in these Zoom calls and seeing, guys 20, 30 years older than me in their 60s and 70s and even in their 50s, unable to hold down jobs, and families won't talk to them, and all this kind of stuff because of their problems with alcohol and drugs is, God, it's so eye-opening. And you're like, this is the path that I'm on. If I'm not careful, this is where I'm going to end up. So that was, really motivating for me. So I did them, and my only focus at that point in time was don't drink, don't take drugs, just quietly flitter away on my business, and trying to form some healthy habits, start going to the gym, and eat better. But I'd lost this creative outlet, nuking all the people in cosplay and deciding I'm going to hang up my cosplay boots, as it were. Suddenly I felt like I had this huge hole in my life, and often concentrating on those things was the thing that kept me straight, and was the thing that kept me focused on the goals that I was moving towards. And I had this new business that I was attempting to grow, and that was great, and that was took up a lot of my focus, but I always felt like there was this hole. So then fast forward a year, and I'm doing a lot better. I'm a year sober. My business is going pretty well. And I decided to, start dating again, and date a couple of people briefly. And then I meet Ali, who appears in some of these videos. And something just changed. It was just like, oh, damn, this is this is the one. This is something. Now, I could talk about Ali's great points for hours on end, but this isn't about that. This is about something that came with Ali, was the fact that she had a car. Now, I hadn't driven in years at that point. I live in a city where it's way easier to travel around by electric scooter or bicycle to get in and out of town. It's way quicker than driving. So I hadn't driven in a long time at that point, and so she had this little Fabia 1.9 TDI, great little car. So I kind of got back into driving again and driving around in that car. So I decided to go out and get myself another car. So I got a little Corsa VXR, which I had for 2 months, and then sold it because I hated it. It was trying to be a sports car, and it wasn't. And I am way too old, let's admit it, to drive a Corsa VXR. And, I was getting into the idea of cars more. So I thought to myself, well, why don't I get an enthusiast car? Not like a toot around to the shops everyday car. Why don't I get an enthusiast car? And so I spent a lot of time, looking at these cars that I've loved for years. And I ended up buying a 1999 Bug-Eye Subaru Impreza WRX. And there's something visceral about the first time you drive an enthusiast car, a car that's not just the kind of car you pop to the shops in every day. And especially something like an Impreza WRX, which has got such an iconic feel and such, distinctive sound that it makes. It's the first time I got in it, and I drove it home from collecting it with the biggest smile on my face. Something changed in me, and it was just the start of a journey that has ultimately led to here, and has ultimately kind of changed my life. The reason I say that Impreza saved my life is that over the last 3.5 years, I'm now 3.5 years clean and sober, I'm happy to say, there have been times where it's been touch and go, and there's been times where kind of like, oh yeah, I could just have a drink, it'll be fine. But in my heart, I know it won't be fine. I still, I don't even think about drinking. We go out and, to a pub or whatever, it doesn't even cross my mind anymore. But there have been times over the course of the last 3.5 years where it definitely has been, a consideration. But having an enthusiast car meant that I just wanted to drive it all the time. And you can't drive when you've been drinking. And that alone was a massive motivating factor for me to just stay sober. The fact that I wanted to drive this car so much. And I think if I'd gone out and just bought a Polo, or just, something, an everyday car, I don't think I would have had that draw to cars that I eventually had. And another great thing that car had was the fact that someone had butchered the fascia in the center console in order to install some aftermarket gauges. These things were wacky. Once I took them out, they were wired with speaker wire directly to the ignition live underneath the steering wheel. Like hack job electrical engineering in that thing. So one of the first things I did was, pull all that out, get better looking gauges, because these were all like mismatched, like trying to look Fast and the Furious. And I designed my own gauge pod that I put in the top of the dashboard to house them. And then loads of people in the Subaru community wanted that gauge pod because it was a new kind of quite cool looking OEM looking design, which is what I was going for, using my background as a product designer. And I did a limited run of selling those. So I did 50 and they sold out pretty quickly. So that was amazing. And that kind of made me realize, oh damn, there's a path here on working on cars. Maybe working on cars and doing custom stuff for cars is a thing I can do. That's where I am now. That's what I'm doing now. This YouTube channel is still pretty new. We're 4 and a bit months into creating content, and I have this history of creating stuff across a wide range of things. Cosplay as a background for me was great moving into cars because I had experience with leatherwork and electronics and molding and 3D printing and resin casting and like loads and loads of stuff. And you'd be amazed how transferable those skills are from one format to another, which is why I can reupholster seats and why I can build Arduino trinket projects. And, obviously being a former programmer, those things come quite easy. And yeah, suddenly this like missing creative element of my life was back in a way that I completely had never anticipated. If I had gone out and got a normal car, I don't think I'd be doing this right now. I don't know what I would be doing, is the honest truth. I don't know if I would have found some other creative outlet. But, this is the one that I found, and what an amazing community it's ended up being. And it's now, I get to go to these meets and hear people talk really passionately about their cars that they're really into, and whether it's, people who are into drift or stance or 4x4s or whatever it is, I can sit and listen to people talk about the things that they're into all day long. I think that's my kink. I think I like hearing people talk passionately about the things that they're into. It's really does it for me. But and it's great to be able to share the things that I'm passionate about and seeing, I'm currently, what are you doing, little dog? Got a little dog behind me. And that's the other thing. Little Freddy, hello, babe. Little dog. How can you not want to stay well when you've got things like this that you have to look after now? Hey, babe. Yeah. And like the support I've had from people around this 350Z project that I'm working on at the moment, the Impreza, I changed the gauges and did a bit of an Alcantara dashboard on it. But this thing is a whole other level. Like everything aesthetic has been changed on it so far. The entire interior is custom. The entire exterior is now custom. I'm just finishing up the wheels. It's like everything is new on it. And to see when I turn up to shows and meets and people have been following that and are excited to see what it looks like in its newest iteration is amazing. And I adore that people actually care about this stupid little journey that I'm taking. So yeah, I mean, I now I'd say past the point where alcohol and drugs are a problem for me. I don't think about them anymore. I don't care about drinking. I don't want to. I know the drunk version of me, the Valentine part. I don't want to be that person anymore. Ali's never seen it, and she never will, and I'm glad, because I don't want the worst parts of me to come out. I don't like that person in me. I like the Andy part of me, and I actually think now I found Andy Valentine. I found who I am. I found the middle and the balance, and the passion and the loudness, but when it's needed, not all the time. And cars did that to me, and that Subaru, that did that to me, and it helped me find balance, and it helped me find myself. And I am so utterly grateful for that. The same way that I'm so utterly grateful for all the love and support that I feel from people in the automotive community. It's amazing, and you guys who watch this and write nice comments and talk to me about cars on Reddit or wherever it might be. I love you all, and I can't wait to see where the rest of this journey goes. And I don't know exactly where it's going to go. And that's okay. I'm trying not to worry about that too much and just kind of enjoy the ride and see where it takes me, because it could be one of many different avenues as we go forwards, and I find other things that inspire me. But I do love teaching and mentorship, and sharing my skills and things that I've learned with other people, and there's going to be a lot of that on this channel, and I already feeling some of that on some of the quite unique projects that we're putting together. So it's going to be great to see how that develops in the future, in whatever shape that takes. But yeah, that Impreza saved my life, as did Ali and everything she brought into my life, as did this little one. This little Freddy. Hey, Freddy, babe. When you've got things that you care about and things that make you passionate and things that you live for, those other things, they don't matter so much. And when you get rid of them, it doesn't matter anymore. So yeah, that's the story about how an Impreza saved my life, and I'm always going to be very thankful for that. And I think I probably will have one again in the future, but who knows? I've got a lot of... The problem is there's too many cars and too little time. I know that this video was maybe quite heavy, and they're not always going to be like this, but I think it's important to be your true self, and this is a big part of my true self. And the things that we do in the past shape us, and these are things that have shaped me. So, there are going to be elements of this in the future going forwards, but predominantly we're going to be making some real cool car stuff. So if you do want to see that, hit subscribe below, and help grow this channel to something where I can actually make it a tangible thing going forwards, which would be great. Also, Freddy will thank you. Won't you, Freddy? Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Why do you look so scared all the time? It's okay. Anyway, folks, whatever you do with the rest of your day, have a wicked one, and I'll see you in the next video, whatever that is. Actually, I know what it is. We finally put bronze wheels on the 350Z. So that's coming in the next couple of days. Have a wicked one. See you in the next video. Take it easy. Bye-bye. Yeah.